We know that planning for a sub is so much work, but fear not, because today I'm sharing a simple strategy to streamline your sub planning process. That way you'll feel less guilty for taking a sick day or taking your personal days off. If you're new here, I'm Rachel Vincent and I love sharing ways to help teachers simplify their classroom and their teaching. If you couldn't tell by the title, I highly recommend using a binder. I don't use binders very often, but I do use one for my sub notebook and for my teacher notebook, and that's probably about it when it comes to binders. But if you're not a big fan of the binders, you can use a folder. You can create it on a shareable drive or folder on your computer if you want to keep it all digital. It's completely up to you where you organize your materials, but having these things in your binder, folder, drive will save you so much time. In full transparency, it will take you some time to set this up initially, but once you have it set up, you are good to go for the remainder of the year. And then next year, you'll have most of it set up and you just have to do a few tweaks to your class list, your schedule, those things that change year to year. The first thing you're going to want to do is think about your sub must-haves. What are the things that you need to let your sub know outside of the plans of what they're doing that day? And then break that into what is something that stays the same every year that you can just do once and be done forever, or what are the things that change year to year that you'll need to update yearly. So for instance, your one and dones, your contact information, your emergency procedures, how to use different technology in the classroom, those things that you just need to let the sub know one time, you can keep that same document from year to year. And then there are the things that you need to change yearly, or maybe multiple times a year if you have like a class list, seating chart that might need to be updated every time you have a sub, but hopefully can stay the same for at least 1 year. That could be your schedule, your class list, a pull-out schedule, those types of things. The next thing, to create or use templates, something you're going to use every single time so that you're not having to create from scratch every time you write sub plans. So think about your routines. What is the order that you teach and that your kids follow? What are the morning procedures, your dismissal procedures, your lunch and recess procedures? Those stay the same day to day for the most part, and you can write those once and be done with it for the whole year. The key is to write what doesn't change so that you only have to update those things that change. So even when you're thinking through your sub plans of like maybe your reading, you know that you follow a similar routine during your reading lesson, or a similar routine that you want your sub to follow. They're gonna read a story, teach a skill, give students work. So go ahead and get that written down. So now all you have to go back in is add the book they're reading, add the skill they're teaching, add the page number or worksheet that they're providing for the students to work on. The key is to keep it simple. So often we think we have to write out these massive sub plans, and yes, it might be helpful for somebody who's brand new to subbing, but let's be honest, anybody who's subbing these days pretty much knows what they're in for and has some sort of sense of what they're doing. And if they don't, honestly, that is not your problem, because you are sick or you have the day off. And if they need more direction, there are other teachers in the building that can help them, and you do not have to give them a step-by-step plan for each day. And I will be 100% honest, I was that teacher. I would give super detailed lessons, and I just realized it's unnecessary. Now I try to give them as much information as possible, but I try to make it information that I don't have to worry about every time I want to plan for a sub, so that I'm really just giving them the basic outline of what they need to do that day, what the kids are required to do that day. A simple way to keep it when you're having to lesson plan is, most of the time as elementary teachers, we plan for a week at a time. So look at the week, see if there's an easier activity or an activity that doesn't require as much from a teacher to do, and move it around. So maybe on Thursday, it's really students are working on a Google form or some sort of worksheet. So instead of doing like a discussion that you were gonna do the day you're out, flip-flop those so that you still get it, and they can just work on something a little more independent that they don't need you for. If you can't do something like that, find an easy review lesson, something that you have already taught students, because we all know students need to review, because most of our pacings are usually so fast that they need to go back and review those skills and topics anyway. So it's okay that that's what they're doing that day while you're out. The easiest way to have those skills are to save worksheets or activities that you don't get to. I don't know about you, but I know pretty much as a whole, my grade level over plans, or there are just times in our lesson plans where I look at what we're supposed to do and I'm like, you know what? My students aren't ready for this, or they don't need this. I'm going to do this instead. And I kind of wing it. And after 20 years of teaching, you have a lot of skill in winging lessons sometimes. So, but I don't get rid of those sheets. I will save them, especially if it is a sheet that doesn't need additional teaching or additional support. I am tucking that away for a day that I need it for a sub. And even if I am able to plan out for my sub plans, I still will leave those types of sheets of here are early finisher activities. If y'all get through this too fast, or if you need more work for the students, I always like to leave my sub extra worksheets. So I'm gonna take you through my sub notebook so that you can see some of it. Obviously I will leave blank for student information wise, but I'm going to show you what I have and a sample of my sub plans so that you can kind of see what I have and what I do. So I realized I can't show most of my actual sub binder with you, but everything that is in this fake one that I made is what I have in mind. Typically what I do for a sub is I have the notebook that has all the things that don't change or that only change year to year go in here, and then the actual plans I just sort of sit out on top and I tell them that they can find more information in this notebook. So just to go through this quickly, these are how I do my sub plans. This actually has more information than I actually include now, but it just walks through my day. And what I actually do when I make them for the first sub of the year is I will highlight in whatever color of the thing, or bolded whatever needs to change so it's easier to find and update in the future. So I'm just giving them a bulleted list of everything that is going on. So this is my notebook that I use, and this first page always has sort of just basic information in case it's a brand new sub to our building, or this is their first time subbing, since we know sub shortages. So I leave, you know, help for the teacher, where to find the teacher's lounge, the adult restrooms, because they're kind of hidden in our school, my contact information, and then who they're subbing for in case they're just forget where they're going. I also usually have these in page protectors, and that way they're front to back. And then this information is just sort of, you know, things that change, where to access information in the classroom. This is where I keep my sub tickets, which I don't have any, but they're just little incentives for the sub to give out. I have them for free in my TBT store if you want them. I'll link them below. And then this is where I just put like how we do behavior. It's really up to the sub what they want to do because it's the day they're spending, but this is just what I keep just to give them ideas. Our class list. And then actually this is just an example seating chart I have, but this is the one I use because we have tables. And then transportation, just so that if somebody asks where so-and-so went for dismissal, they have that information. And then this is just information to help them. This is how we typically do things in our class. This is great for the beginning of the year for myself. I will often take slides that I use at the beginning of the year and put them in the slideshow if I'm creating a slideshow for the sub to use, just to, one, let the sub know how our class works, two, remind the students that, hey, this is what we do, and the sub knows this is what you're supposed to do, our daily schedule. And then I also like to include like our related arts schedule, and then any safety information that they might need. You know, a certain student has an inhaler in the office, or if they go to take daily medication, where find band-aids and nurse passes. I leave like the phone number to call our school nurse, our red emergency bag, how we do all the different drills in case those happen the day I'm out. And typically I like to put this with my daily schedule, but I also like to include this because I do have so many students getting pulled out for different services that I just want them to be aware. I often will include that in my sub plans just so they know, because I feel like most teachers or subs are going to go through this and not always look at this notebook, but I like to have it there for them just in case. It's really easy to create your own templates. You can just use insert tables, and that's how I separate mine. But if you want to save time and not have to do all that yourself, I have my sub notebook templates that include the sub plans and all of the pages you just saw in my TPT store. You can check the link below. And if you want even more ways to make planning for a sub easier, check out the video that's on your screen now.